Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day that you are watching this video. It's time for this week's episode of Unlocked Car Chronicles. So today, before I get into it, I want to share an excerpt from when I did the book Q&A, where I got some of the readers together to ask them their thoughts about the book. And I know I probably talked about it a little bit from one of the earlier Car Chronicles, but this was just a snippet of one of the young ladies who read the book and what it is she had to say, and about one of the particular characters in the book that we will be talking about today. So take a look at the excerpt and we'll be right back.
Awesome. I can tell you, as a person who is in the healing process, it accomplished everything that it was supposed to accomplish. So I would even give this to, I would be comfortable giving this to even a teenager to read, so that they know what to look out for and things, so that they can then heal as they're growing. It was an excellent write. It was so good. That's why I'm here today. So I thank you. I could relate to lots of things that you wrote. I have to show this, because if they ever want to know anything about me, all they got to do is pick up this book. Because every section I hand wrote and reflected on the questions that you set forth. And they were literally, like, I can't even put into words, as a person who is in the counseling business. It was just perfect. It really was. Um, I can say the reflection part that I had that really gravitated to my own heart was Addie. Like, I was cringing every time Addie's name came up in every chapter, and I just kept getting more and more upset with Addie. And then there were parts of her that you experienced that I can say reflected towards my own life and my own experience with my maternal grandmother. Like, it was life changing and eye opening. So thank you.
So I hope you enjoyed the excerpt from the book Q&A. And as I said before, we are working to get a second book Q&A together. So if you missed the first one, stay tuned. We are looking to get another one out. So today, I'm going to be talking about one of the characters in the book, Unlocked, being free from your dysfunctional prison. Technically, she's not a character. She's an actual person, or was. I'm going to be talking about Addie, the grandmother. A lot of people have asked, or, with Katina, she kind of alluded to it. You can see in the video, when the young lady, she was talking about Addie, and everybody was resonating like, oh, yeah, yeah, Addie. So I do have a chapter in the book. It's chapter 4, and it says, Addie, the grandmother, sweet or salty. So I'm just going to read a few excerpts from the chapter, and then I'm going to go to part of the reflection question that's at the end of that chapter, and we're going to go into our discussion for today. So this is from chapter 4 of Unlocked. Addie, the grandmother, sweet or salty. Who established your foundation? For me, it was Addie, the grandmother. She played a pivotal role, though it was negative and disparaging, in my development and growth, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. In chapter 2, I shared that Addie adopted my mother as a toddler. She could never have children of her own. My mother got pregnant and had me at the age of 15. So Addie raised me as if I were her daughter also, and not just her granddaughter. She thought that adopting a child would somehow save her troubled marriage, which was revealed in a secret family gossip. Initially, it helped some. They no longer were looking at separating, but soon her anger grew when it seemed her husband, Sylvester, loved her daughter, Donna, more. than her. So now I want to jump down. We're still in chapter 4, just reading just another tidbit, and then I'll go more into our discussion today concerning Addie. Addie thought she had the world fooled. She believed people thought she was a sweet and loving, a grandmother who gave gifts, baked cookies, and shared wisdom. But those who really knew her knew the truth. Her outer appearance was different from her inner personality. Those she would help out occasionally thought she was sweet. She could look like the sugar and spice mature woman role, but she would help them and then talk about them like a dog, bragging about how they were down and out, and she did this and that for them. Well, as the old saying goes, you can't judge a book by its cover. So that was part of chapter 4. Now, this is the part of our discussion that we're going to talk about today, and I'll give a little bit more background on Addie and how she framed my foundation. So, this is who set your foundation reflection. Who was the person who laid the foundation for your beliefs and core values? It could have been your mother, father, grandmother, grandfather, aunt, or uncle. Basically, the individuals who raised you. When you reflect on them and compare them to who you are today, do you see a reflection of yourself? This reflection can either be positive or negative, prompting a moment of self introspection. As we talked about before in the reflections, this is a time for you to come face to face in the mirror, for you to really see who you are and how you have developed. And this one, we're talking about who set your foundation. Normally, those that set your foundation, they are the ones who raised you. They can be your mother or father, they can be your grandparents, aunt and uncle, whoever it was that actually raised you. For me, it was Addie. So if you read the book or you read the book, you'll see I'll say Addie or I'll say the grandmother. Now, I did that way for a reason, because in the book, you'll see, because of all the different things that I went through with Addie, she's technically the villain of the story. But I also didn't want to be rude or dishonor her in a way. So that's why I said the grandmother. The different things that I did go through growing up with her, it was very hard. It was, like I said, it was despairing. It was evil on some accounts. But at the same time, I wanted to tell the story and not put her in like this horrible light, but to just state the facts and actuality of the different things that happened. So Addie did adopt my mother when she was a toddler, basically in hopes to save her marriage. As I had read, that only lasted for a while. So when my mother was 15, she had me. So this was like another chance of grasping at that straw of, okay, maybe I can use her, which is me, as a child to bring this back together. And even in that, I think it worked the same way with my mom. It's like they were working together, but then when she realized how much my grandfather loved me, um, it became a wedge not only between them but even with us, because she would get angry at different things if I was spending too much time with him or listening to him or just different things. Um, to say she was evil, to just be honest, it's an understatement. It's just the different things that she did. We hear people talk about like discipline. What is discipline and what is child abuse? Well, as far as that goes, it was child abuse. With Addie, it was child abuse, and the thing of it is, I didn't know I was being abused. I would get in trouble. I'm not gonna say I was a bad child, but I'm not gonna say I was a perfect child either. I, like most children, I did things, I got in trouble. So with Addie, what she would do is, um, she would take all my clothes off. I'd get stripped butt naked. She would tie my hands and my feet together with like these little rag things or whatever, lay me across the bed, and I would get beat with an extension cord, like a literal extension cord that she had cut up to make to spank me with. And of course I would have welts on my body, I would have cuts, I would have different things or whatever on my body, and this went on for years. And because I was so scared, because she was like, you better not, because she threatened me like, you better not tell anybody, because if you do, then they're going to take you and they're going to beat you and they're going to do worse things and they're going to take you, from me. And even though I didn't necessarily want to be there because of everything that I was going through, she made it seem like wherever I was going would have been far worse. So I just chose to not say anything. It really wasn't until I was about 12, going on 13, that I happened to say something to somebody, because they was talking about they was going to get in trouble or whatever, and they said something about getting beat with a belt, and I'm looking at them like, what is that? Like, I didn't know what getting popped with a belt or getting spanked with a belt was. I didn't know what that was. I got beat with an extension cord, got beat with a shoe. I literally got beat with a rose bush because I came home late. I was playing and I didn't hear her call me, so I didn't get down the street fast enough. So yeah, as a child, I knew all of her friends' business because I was her daughter granddaughter, but it was almost like I was her friend dumping ground at the same time, because she would tell me all these personal things about what her friends did and didn't do, and I didn't want to know. I just wanted to go play. I wanted to go play outside. I wanted to go do this. But then if I said I didn't want to hear it or I didn't like it, I got in trouble. I got on punishment or I got popped. The other thing that I went through, I know a lot of people that read the book, and you just have to read it to really get into the full of everything with her. Um, this is just snippets of it so that we can kind of go to the reflection part of it. Her favorite word was stupid. Her favorite word was to call me stupid. Like, oh, you're so stupid this, you're stupid that, or whatever. You can't do anything. And it was very demeaning. We look at our parents or those that are around us or should be in our home, that they should uplift us, they should build us up, they should affirm us. And I didn't get that. So it has been a work and a journey for me to affirm myself, for me to build myself up. And transparent, to be honest, I still have to do that daily, because when you've been told as a child, you're stupid, you're worthless, you're not going to amount to anything, you know, you're fat, you're ugly, you're skinny. I mean, my weight fluctuated. I was super skinny, then I got heavy, then I went back. I was all over the place emotionally, because my foundation was set in dysfunction. When we have children and they're little, we're supposed to mold them and speak life into them, speak affirmations into them, you know, to let them know you're bold, you're strong, you're courageous, like you can do it. We're supposed to be encouraging them, not busting their bubble and, you know, deflating the blow up doll or whatever it is. We're supposed to encourage them. Now, when you go into the question where it's saying, like, okay, who laid your foundation? And when you reflect and you compare it, do you see those things in you? As much and as many things as I hated, and hate is a very strong word, but that I hated about Addie, I found myself as I got older into adulthood and having children repeating certain things. And then I had to come face to face with, I don't want to do this. How I talk to my children at a certain point, even in discipline. It wasn't a stitching cord, it was a phone cord. It was still a cord that, but eventually that stopped. I wound up using a belt. But there were certain things that I was repeating and that I was mimicking. Even like she would cuss me out, she would cuss my mama out, she would cuss everybody out. One time she cussed passed out. That's a whole other story. But I got that, the slick mouth, the nice nasty ways, and this, that, and the other. I picked that up because that was part of my foundation. That was part of that DNA that was put into me. Even though she wasn't my biological grandmother, she was still my adoptive grandma because she adopted my mother. But she raised me from a child. So this is the thing. You don't necessarily have to be blood to pick up certain things within yourself, within your DNA, your core beliefs, your values. It's whoever is pouring into you. Whoever is pouring into you, whoever is setting your foundation, they're setting your mentality. I was set up at a young age to fail. I did not know that. I didn't find this out till like many years later as an adult. She had male friends after my grandfather died, because I was about 7, 8 when he had passed. There was a lot more men coming in and out of the house. They were my uncles. That's what you say back in the day, your uncles. That's what they used to call their boyfriends or whatever. And one of them molested me. Well, I would say most of them molested me, but this one went further than all of them, of actual like penetration type. And and I was crying, and he was like, if you scream, like, I'll hurt your grandmother and this, that, and other. And even though I didn't like her and the different things, she was all I had, because my grandfather had died, my mother had left, and she was doing her own thing. So pretty much it was just me and her. And I'm just like, I don't like what you're doing. I need to be rescued. I needed Addie. I screamed. She came running to the back. Of course, he tried to blame it on me. Like 8 years old, 8, 9 years old. Like, I'm a child. How did I make you do anything? And of course, she ran him out, and they was arguing and different stuff. But then she came back, and I got beat. Literally with the stick. She didn't. It wasn't a tire. It was just hit wherever she hit. And I'm like, so now I'm hurting. I'm broken. I'm semi bleeding now because I'm getting hit with a extension cord, getting cussed out, call it, a heifer, a slut, or this, that, and the other. And I'm like, you rescued me, but then you came back and you broke me even more. That was a hard pill to swallow as a child, not realizing that that was part now of my foundation. That as I got older, the brokenness, the bad relationships, the different life choices that I made, and even as I made choices over the years, just the different things that she said, of the constant belittling, this why your mama don't love you, this why your daddy don't love you, this why they don't want you, because I always often wondered, why was my dad not in my life? Why was my mom, not around? She came back when my granddaddy got sick, but then she was always busy and working and still trying to live her life and figure things out, because that's what Addie told her to do. But then she's telling me, oh, she doesn't want you. She doesn't like you. These are not things that a child should have to go through. A child should have to deal with. But when you deal with those things and that becomes your foundation, it like it settles in your soul, it settles in your emotion, it settles in your thoughts, in your being. Then now you're making choices from a faulty foundation. You're experiencing life, even your viewpoint of life is set up from a faulty foundation. There are things where I could do good things, and she was like, "Oh, I knew you could do it. You just act stupid." And it was like I would get praise and belittled at the same time. So the belittlement canceled out. It canceled out the praise. So then when I did get around people who actually was saying encouraging things, was actually giving me compliments, I didn't believe it because I had learned to hate me, because that's how I felt that Addie felt about me. And that's basically what she told me, in the sense of how my parents, oh, they don't like you. They don't want to be around you. That's why your dad moved all the way to across the world to a whole nother state to get away from you. Your mom was out doing this, that, and the other, had gotten married, doing, this, that, and the other. And as a child growing up, why would I think she would lie to me? So I believed what she said, not knowing that a lot of the things that she said were lies. Why did she lie to me? I don't know. Maybe it was jealousy. Maybe it was because her mother didn't like her. This is not just something I heard. This is something I know. Because one, Addie told me that. And two, later on in life, her mother came, my great grandmother came to stay with us. And she told me she did not like her. She was evil. I thought she was just saying that, didn't know. But it does go on in the book where I say Addie was a practicing witch. She was in the Eastern, she was in the Eastern Star. And so she would do things that I didn't know or didn't understand of what it is that she was doing. And I had started going to church at a young age because a friend of mine invited me, and I liked it. First, she didn't want me to go, but I kept begging. So she let me go to Sunday school, but then I got into the choir and the Tiny Tot choir. We would sing, but we were singing for church. So I had to stay. So I had invited her, and I kept, trying to get, so she eventually she started going to church because I kept begging her and I wanted to stay, and I was joining different things and doing different things. But I realize now, and even later on in life, that I was doing so many things and in so many things because I was trying to get gratification. I was trying to get that pat on the back that you're doing a good job, because I didn't get that at home from her. It was always the negative. We talked about in one of the other episodes, people speaking negative to you, and then you're repeating the negativity, and how to change that mindset. So even in that had a lot of the stuff. When I wrote my list, and I said it before, man, I had like pages of stuff. The majority of the negative things that were on there were things that I got from Addie, things that Addie said, things that she had implanted or embedded in my psyche, in my emotions, my mind, my thoughts. That's why I started regurgitating and repeating those things, because to me they became true. They wasn't true. They were lies from the pit of hell, but because she was saying those things, I believed them. I didn't know she was practicing witchcraft. I knew that in that house, I went through dealt with demons and a lot of demonic activity. I went through depression. I went through suicide attempts. I I went back to that house ultimately to commit suicide. I was drawn back to the house, called back to the house, if you will. And I'll go into all that in another episode, but it was because of what was set up with her. Now, I'm going to answer this question because some of you are probably thinking it like, okay, you done went through all this torment. You done went through all this hell. She allowed people to come in and molest you. Oh, I did put in one of the chapters, she was a pimp. So, um, when that had happened with the uncle, quote unquote, And I heard them arguing, but I was crying. And I had to go back and think about it. I heard they were saying something about money, which I didn't understand. But then later on, I figured out and found out that the uncles or whatever, she would have me sit on their laps and this, that, and the other, which that's definitely, if you have girls, that's, don't let them sit on men's laps or whatever. If it's not their daddy, because their daddy gonna make sure they're positioned a certain way. Don't do that. That's a sidebar. But she would have me sit on their laps, and they would be playing and different stuff, and I was wondering why it started feeling uncomfortable. I did not know that she was having me sit on their laps basically for them to get a rise out of themselves or whatever it was, and she was getting money for it. So that's why in the book I say, oh yeah, she was a pimp, because she pimped me out. And so basically with him, because all that happened, he wasn't giving her the money that I guess she was promised. So it was a whole fight. So that's actually why I wound up getting the spanking, because I messed up her money, which I didn't know. I was a child. I didn't know. But even in all that, I hated her. Past tense. I don't hate her now. Even though yeah, she's dead and gone. I don't hate her. I literally forgave her, but I actually had to go through several cycles of forgiveness, because I thought I had forgave her. But then as I was writing this, or as I was going through my process of inner healing and deliverance and different things, I realized that there was still hatred there. I realized there was still resentment there. There was still anger there. So I had to forgive her from the grave. It wasn't a thing that I could go and confront her where you did this and you did that, and I demand an apology. I deserve an apology. No, I got no apology from Addie. I wasn't gonna get no apology from Addie. Even there were certain things I went to her about before she died. She just turned it around on me. It was still my fault, some kind of way. My fault, my mama fault, my daddy fault, anybody and everybody fault, but her fault. So I had to get resolved for me. I had to forgive her for me. Because as I did the self introspection and I started looking at different things, I realized that there were certain areas in my life at certain times, and even up until that particular point, that I was still mimicking the different things that she had done to me or that she had done. And I did not like that. I did not want that in my life anymore. And even though a foundation has been set, if it's faulty, you can still dig it up and reset the foundation, create a new foundation. And that's what I had to do. But in creating the new foundation, I had to forgive her, so that I was no longer being held hostage, so that I was no longer in the old way of thinking or the old way of doing things. That when I realized that I might have would slip back in my thinking of, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, or you're so dumb, you're so stupid, or going off on somebody or whatever. It's like, hold on, that's not what I need to do. No, I am intelligent. I am smart. I can figure this out, because I can do all things through Christ Jesus that strengthens me. You know what? It's a better way to talk to my children. It's a better way to handle this situation. You know what? I don't have to rob Peter to pay Paul. I don't have to do this, that, and the other. I can do it differently. But that means I have to tear up the old foundation, the faulty foundation, the dysfunctional foundation, to create and build a new one that is built on the word of God, that is built on truth and not lies. So even depending on whoever the person was that raised you, even if they wasn't an Addie, Even if they had better characteristics, but it was still something that in them, or something that you didn't like about how you grew up. Or maybe it was the fact of you was raised by a single mom or a single dad, or you didn't have your parents and you was raised by a grandparent, and you felt some kind of way, why my parents didn't love me, why wasn't they together, whatever it is. And you sit back and you look at the things of how you grew up, what you were taught, what you believed initially, and as you have developed and changed, how it's different now. You don't have to be like that person. If the person that raised you, if they were alcoholic or a drug addict or a gambler, you don't have to be that just because they were that. You don't have to go down that same road. You don't have to go down that same path. You know, yes, I dealt with depression. I dealt with different things of trauma and grief. I'm not in that place anymore. But it took years for me to get out. Did my children go through certain things because of it? Yes, they did. And I had to go back and I had to speak to them. I had to apologize to them. As an adult, as a parent, it doesn't take anything from you. It doesn't make you any less of a parent or a person to apologize to your child when you were in error. Because as people, even as adults, if somebody wrongs us, what do we want? An apology. Sometimes we want an explanation. Sometimes you're not going to get that. But even if you don't, a simple apology can go a long way. I love my kids. We joke, we tease, we talk. Um, I give them the space to be honest with me, even before they got to be adults. That, you know what, we can have a round table where this is a safe space, as long as you're not rude and you're not disrespectful and you're not coming at me sideways. You can say how you feel, what you like, what you don't like, even if it's something I did or didn't do. What you like, what you don't like, even if it's something I did or didn't do. Did some of those things hurt? Yes, they did. But we were able to have open dialogue. Sometimes some things got shut down along the way, whether communication or misunderstanding. But even now, all of them are adults. The baby girl is 21. We have communication. We have open dialogue. Sometimes the topics get sensitive. They get touchy, but we respect one another. And I do my best to make sure that when I'm sharing different things with them, even if it's a hard truth, that it's not done in a demeaning way. Even when they talk to me, that it's not done in a demeaning way. I love my girls. My girls will put me in check, but in a nice way. Be like, Mom, I need you to do this better than that. Mom, sometimes they think they my mama, but they're not. But we have a dialogue that we can communicate, and I'm not belittling them and they're not belittling me. But I had to change that dynamic, because I did not have that dynamic growing up. Is whatever I say goes. Basically, you do what I say. It don't matter if I was wrong. I'm not going to admit I was wrong. Just do what I say. Don't question me. Don't ask no questions. Just do what I say. You know, getting cussed out, getting belittled, all those things that I went through with Addie. Some things I took over as a parent. Certain things I did not. But even now, as my children are adults and they have children, or going to have children, I'm still mindful of our conversations, because I want to uplift them, I want to encourage them. And even where I saw things were dropped with me, and I may have dropped the ball with them, I'm working to go back to correct those things, so that it doesn't go down generationally now into my grandchildren, so that they don't have to experience those things. It's a balance. There's a balance with everything. There it is. It's just a balance with everything. I'm learning to balance. I've learned to balance. I'm still learning to balance different things. I'm helping them and encouraging them that they're able to balance different things so that, guess what? The new foundation that I created is stronger, it's better, and new things can be built on it, helping them to basically redo their foundation. Because when I was raising them, I was in dysfunction. So it created dysfunction for them. So for them to be able to dig up their foundations and recreate new foundations to do better and be better than I was as a parent at that particular time. So that's it for today. Unlocked Car Chronicles, where we were talking about Addie, the grandmother. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you do not have your copy of the book, please check out my website to get a copy, or you can get it on Amazon.com. If you enjoyed the video, you got something out of it, please subscribe, like, and share for the videos, working to be consistent to drop these every week. If you have any questions, leave comments on the video and I'll come back to do my best to answer the questions, or maybe that'll wind up being a topic. Um, Hopefully next week I'll have a guest with me. See if I can get Miss Raina to join me before she goes out of the country again, so I can get some feedback from her on the book. She was one of my pushers that helped me get this out and encouraged me to not stop, to not drop the ball when some things had happened and it didn't come out initially. So I am definitely grateful for those who push me, who encourage me, who pray for me, who tell me the truth in love. I am definitely grateful for that. So until next week of Unlocked Car Chronicles, you all have a great rest of your week, a great weekend, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day.